So we're back here. We're just currently playing Elden Ring. But I was talking earlier about some stuff that Alex Hormozy said about entrepreneurship as a video game or similar to a video game. And so that got me to the idea of playing Elden Ring because what Alex Hormozy said was along the lines of, you fight bosses. In entrepreneurship, it's like a video game because you're constantly fighting a boss. You keep dying, coming back to fight the same boss over and over again until you learn the patterns and until you learn how to defeat the boss. So, as I was listening to that one morning this week, it got me thinking like how many times do we as creatives, as entrepreneurs, as just individuals get stuck on boss fights in life? Now, I'm a huge gamer, so I understand what it's like to learn to adapt, what it's like to learn to equip yourself better for the boss fight. And then there's going to be some surprise mini bosses. There's going to be some enemies along the way, little things here and there. But one of the things that he said, you keep dying and coming back to fight the same boss over and over again until you learn the lesson. So until you actually learn how to prepare yourself, until you actually learn how to equip yourself better to fight these bosses. Now, in a video game, you die and you respawn a couple seconds later, right? And that's with, Elden Ring, that's with Pokemon, that's with Call of Duty, that's all these different video games, all these different types of games, you know. The biggest thing here, though, is that in real life, when you get stuck on a boss, when you lose against the boss, when you die fighting this boss, you don't just lose a couple seconds. You lose 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, whatever that looks like. And so it was just really crazy to think that, looking back and looking at what I'm doing with, Turtle Crew Studios, what I'm doing with the church, what I'm doing outside of that, and, it goes further. It doesn't just stick in creative, like relationships, friendships, families. What boss fights have you been stuck on for the last X amount of years? And for those of you who don't play video games, like I get it, it can be a difficult thing to kind of comprehend. But for example, let's take Elden Ring. I've been playing Elden Ring for the last 2 hours, maybe, trying to fight a boss, trying to get to the boss fight. I did the first stage of a boss fight, and I died once. Revamped the way I was gonna fight. I was also talking at the same time, so I wasn't fully focused on it, which says something right there. How focused are you on the boss fight? How focused are you on pursuing that dream, that goal, whatever it may look like? But now I'm here. I believe I'm about to hit the second phase of the boss fight, but it's taking me hour and a half to traverse from one point of life or one point of this game to the other, because there's this broad world or this broad map that you're constantly going through. So in the creative field, you have all these different avenues, all these different niches, all these different things that you can do before you get to the boss of what's next in life, what's next for your creative goal, what's next for your creativity, what's your next project, your next video, what's your next contract look like. And sometimes we're going to be stuck in this kind of travel to and from, but we have to realize that even on the travel, even on the little journey that we're going through, if you're not fighting any enemies, if you're not running into roadblocks, then you're probably going the wrong way. If there's one thing I've learned, and I've said it multiple times to my team, to other people, is that you're going the right way in any video game because you're going to be fighting enemies. You're going to be facing opposition. You're going to be doing something or fighting. You are going to be fighting against something that's keeping you from getting to that next step. That's keeping you from getting to the next goal. And so even as I'm here playing Elden Ring and just trying to get back into it, it's been a while since I've played, but it's helping me realize that, it's really it's a huge journey just getting from point A to point B, from one checkpoint to the next. Here you're constantly dying. Here, you're battling enemies left and right, and sometimes it can be a little confusing. Sometimes you may fight enemies and still end up in the wrong spot. And so it's through trial and error. It's through going up against these bosses, going up against these enemies, learning to adapt, learning to figure out their fighting style, their pattern. So, like, where in your life, where in school, in work, where are you needing to find the pattern? And a lot of times it can be simple. A lot of times it can be very difficult. One of the other things for me that, as I'm looking at these vlogs and how I create, how do I defeat the boss of daily vlogs? Daily vlogs work, but there's truly no real story behind them. And so creating a video like this provides more of a story, provides more detail, a little bit more in depth of what I want to portray for the vlogs. But no, just so going back to what Alex Hormozi was saying, and I think it relates to a lot of things in life. It could relate to work, to school, to creativity, to church, and it's just the bosses that you fight in life. Have you actually equipped yourself? Have you prepared yourself? Elden Ring, for example, you start off, you select a class, you do all that, but as you're leveling up, that's experience. You're fighting, you're dying, you're fighting, you're dying, but you're gaining experience along the way. Now, yes, in real life, we gain experience through many different avenues, and it can get pretty tedious sometimes because in a video game, you die and respawn. In real life, it's you better learn quick. You need to learn to adapt faster than normal pace. Because if you don't, you will get stuck for X amount of years. See, like right now, I am about to fight two little I wouldn't really call them mini bosses, just obstacles. Three. So I would challenge whoever's watching this vlog and whoever's listening, just, what bosses are you actually like facing in your day-to-day life, in your career? And then how long have you been stuck on some of the bosses that I'm gonna die? How long have you been stuck on certain bosses that should have been defeated already? So another thing is, if you keep making the same mistake over and over, the mistake isn't the problem, you are. If you're constantly battling this boss, if you're constantly making that same mistake, you're dodging wrong, you don't have the right armor equipped, you're using the wrong weapon, and you start to look at yourself and reflect on yourself. Like, what is it that you keep messing up on? What is it that you may need to shift or change in order to conquer the boss, in order to conquer the enemies? So as you do play this game of life, you have to learn to adapt. You have to learn to recognize patterns in the bosses and just learn how to really equip yourself. I'm reminded of going back to like Pokemon, something super simple. And in Pokemon, you have to level up your Pokemon to beat the bosses. Yeah, there's like type differences and everything like that, but going back to Pokemon Yellow, you have a Pikachu and maybe a Butterfree if you're able to get, the Caterpie and everything like that, but your first gym is Brock. And so a electricity and rock do not mix. You will lose 90% of the time. So you have to grind your Pokemon out. You have to make sure you're leveled up. So in what instances are you grinding? In what instances are you doing what you need to do to level up, to take that time, to develop, to grow? And it's all part of the game of life. And it's just, to me, it's fun. Yes, it's going to be difficult. Yes, there's going to be some boss fights that, you know, you'll get stuck on and hopefully learn to adapt to and beat. But as you're going through this whole idea of leveling up and developing yourself, another thing to keep in mind is just exploring different avenues. You want to make sure that you're leveled up enough. There are times, especially in Pokemon, where I overlevel my team in order to, be able to beat these bosses or these gym leaders or, whoever it is that I have to beat. Elden Ring 2, right now, I'm getting my butt kicked. But it's learning patterns, it's learning how to dodge. And so, again, just going back to the basis of it. What are you doing to actually develop yourself, to learn, to adapt, to beat these bosses in life? It's definitely not an easy thing to do. I mean, if it was easy, then everyone would be doing it, right? Continue to level yourself up, whether that's reading, whether that's studying, whether that's being obsessed with your field, your career, your job, whatever. But if you begin to look at if you begin to look at life from the perspective of a video game and the relationship, the parallels that are there, I'm pretty sure you'd succeed and go further than you have before. Go further than other people in your field who may not look at life like a video game. Now, I'm not saying you can go and die and you'll respawn or anything like that, but taking the mechanics of the game and applying it to your life, leveling up, gaining the experience, going out, doing the research, putting in the work, becoming obsessed with it, with what you are doing in life, making sure to explore every avenue. In open world games, you have the opportunity to explore and grow and develop, and you'll find enemies all over the place, sometimes more heavily guarded than others, but that just means there may be better opportunity there for better equipment, for better magic or weapons. In real life, it could just be an opportunity that helps you move even further in life, even further in your career or whatever it may be. So explore every avenue. But if you do find yourself not fighting anybody at all, not having any opposition or any distractions, take a second look at where you're at and see if you're actually going in the wrong direction. And then finally, when it comes to these bosses in life, when it comes to just defeating those giants, those things that keep you from moving forward, or those things that keep you from following your dream, don't let it keep you stuck for 20 years. Don't even let it keep you stuck for 5 years. I guess a year may be okay, but even then, that's pushing it. Learn to adapt. Learn to figure out the moveset of whatever boss it is that you're fighting and defeat it. Gather some people together. Fight it together. There are certain bosses you can fight with a group, and there's some you have to fight alone. And so, what is it that you are actually doing to defeat those bosses? What is it you're doing to actually achieve your goals and win the game of life? Winning the game of life is different for everybody. Could be becoming a doctor, could be becoming a CEO. It could be that you become, manager of whatever. Could be that you open up a business and it's a successful one. Could be a multimillionaire. Could be that you're, feeding the homeless. Whatever that looks like. Everybody's end game is different. So at the end of the day, what is it that you are doing or not doing to just beat the game? Everyone has a different end game. Everyone has a different goal. So what is it that you're doing to actually get there, to achieve it? And if you've never played video games, pick up something simple. Pokemon. Extremely simple game. And they've done nothing but make it more simple over the years. But learn what it means to actually fight a boss. Learn what it means to develop those skills, to adapt, to learn the movesets, and to ultimately win the game. So those are just my thoughts on Alex Hormozi's, entrepreneurship is like a video game.